Game 2 between the Thunder and the Spurs gave us exactly what we wanted. Drama, adjustments, big shots, physicality, questionable calls, to say the least, and now officially we have a series. It also gave us some injuries, that's not what we wanted obviously, but still a huge factor. OKC takes game 2 at home, ties it up at 1-1, and honestly, this already starts to feel like one of those playoff matchups we're going to be talking about for years. Not just because of the high stakes now, but because this might be the Western Conference rivalry for the next decade. You got Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. You got Victor Wembanyama. You got young guards flying around. And both teams already look way too good for how young they are. But game 2 was really about one scene first. OKC hit back. In game 1, Wemby felt like the one setting the tone. He was everywhere, blocking shots, controlling space, forcing OKC to sin twice about every drive. In game 2, the Thunder clearly came with a different plan. They were more physical with him. Isaiah Hartenstein played way more minutes, and his whole job was basically make Wemby work for everything. Push him off his spots, bump him, fight him on the glass, don't let him glide into the game, and you could see it. Wemby still had a very good stat line: 21 points, 17 rebounds, 6 assists, 4 blocks, but it didn't feel like game 1. He looked a little tired, which makes sense because he played huge minutes in game 1 and then in game 2 OKC made every possession feel like a wrestling match. Now Spurs fans probably won't love some of that physicality. There were definitely moments where Hartenstein was pulling, holding, grabbing arms, doing all the veteran big man stuff that lives right on the edge of legal and illegal. And honestly, I get why Spurs fans would be frustrated. The challenge situation was rough too. San Antonio had to burn challenges early on fouls that really did not look like fouls on Wemby. That matters because once your challenges are gone, you're basically stuck living with whatever the refs give you for the rest of the game. But setting that aside, OKC game plan worked. They made Wemby uncomfortable enough, and they made the Spurs offense look rushed enough. And that leads to the biggest issue for San Antonio: turnovers. Staphon Castle was awesome and terrifying at the same time. He had 25 points, 8 assists, 5 rebounds. He had the highlight of the night with that ridiculous dunk. His energy is insane. But he also had 9 turnovers. And through 2 games, he had 20 turnovers total. That is a problem. And it's not just Castle. As a team, San Antonio had 43 turnovers through 2 games, and OKC has turned those into 55 points. That is brutal. Against a team this good, you're basically giving Shai and Thunder free offense. The Spurs have actually been strong on the glass, so the goal doesn't even have to be perfect offense every trip. So the simple thing is just get a shot up, even if it's not perfect. At least give yourself a chance to crash, reset, and give a kick-out 3. But when you turn it over before the shot even happens, OKC is running the other way. Now for the Thunder, Shai looked like Shai. 30 points, 9 assists, efficient, calm, and just making ridiculous shots look normal. Every time San Antonio tried to hang around, Shai had an answer. He didn't have to force the game, he just controlled it. And that's the luxury OKC has. Where things get chaotic, they can just hand the ball to an MVP level guard and say, go settle this down. The interesting part is that OKC also got more from Chet Holmgren. Was this some dominant Chet game? No, but it was better. And with Jalen Williams hurt, Chet has to do more. 13 points is fine, but if J-Dub is limited or misses time, fine is probably not enough. And that brings us to the injury mess. Jalen Williams only played about 7 minutes and left with a left hamstring issue. That is scary because hamstrings are not something you just brush off in the playoffs. They linger, they get worse if you rush them. Dylan Harper also got hurt for San Antonio, De'Aaron Fox was already out, AJ Mitchell got banged up late too, so now Game 3 becomes even harder to predict. Because on paper, this series is incredible, but the health situation could swing everything. If J-Dub is out, OKC needs more from Chet, Caruso, Cason Wallace, and the bench. If Harper and Fox are out or limited, San Antonio guard depth gets really thin, and Castle has to carry even more creation, which also means more pressure and potentially more turnovers. So where does this leave us? OKC got the response they needed. They tied the series. They showed that they can be physical with Wemby. They handled San Antonio's zone better. Shai looked like the best guard on the floor. And Chet at least took a step in the right direction. For the Spurs, the formula is pretty clear. Clean up the turnovers, survive the non-Wemby minutes, and find a way to keep Wemby involved without wearing him down by the fourth quarter. Game 3 is massive, because now we've seen both teams land a punch. San Antonio hit first in Game 1, OKC hit back in Game 2. And if everyone healthy enough to keep this thing close to full strength, we might be watching the beginning of a playoff rivalry that defines the West for a long time. Let me know what you think. Did OKC actually figure something out defensively, or was this just more about Wemby being tired and the Spurs turning the ball over? Either way, this series is already a must-watch.